Mike Hinman, the owner of the WCPPL, owner of San Diego Aftermath, local paintball warlord, totally kidding. Yeah, the guy that runs things here at the WC, and we're gonna walk this here layout, the Lone Wolf layout, Field 2 for WC, and walk through it and make some game plans on how we could get some good breakouts and play this thing. So for me, on a blind layout, the first thing I would ask my guys is how can we get 5 guys alive across the field, spread out on the field, and try to play paintball, right? Because everybody's game plan in the pits over there to when it comes out here, it all changes once the game starts, right? And you got to get just back to basic paintball. So on a field like this where we've got a corner, another corner on the D side, a back center, you pretty much know you're going to have 3 guys somewhere in there. And then obviously 2-man operations, right? 2 to the Dorito side, 2 over to the Snake side. And then the real question becomes, the variable is where that back center gun goes. You know, something like back at home when I help the local kids out here, we do 3-on-3s all day, which we would put a guy here, a guy in the first Snake bunker, and the guy in the first Dorito bunker, which was like that big Dorito. And we just play 3-on-3s all day, full field. And that way, because a lot of games are going to come down to where you lose a guy or 2 on both lines, 3-on-3, 3-on-2, whatever, and you've got to figure out how to win. So on this field, you know, getting a 2-man operation to one side of the field or to both sides of the field is important. And then where's the power play? How can you get that third gun active with them to help get down that side of the field? So I think early on when you come to a blind layout, you know, you can see some routes that you could try to run real far, but something, you know, I try to teach a lot of the young kids, just because you can get up to the 50 Snake or their 40 Snake or whatever this far up spot is, you may not have a lot of good shots from there. So where can you get to on this field and still have good shots, get wide, and be able to shoot across the field and, in theory, pick up some kills, right? Get some quick eliminations and start working your way down the field. So when you walk through a blind layout, which just means nobody's played it, we've got no practice time on it, just how can we as a team win on this field and slowly put it together? You know, speaking with everybody out here, you kind of know at the WC, well, your plans for your first point are probably not going to be the same plans if you make the finals. Because as this thing grows and you get deeper into the tournament, you start learning more stuff that you can do. It's just like the NXL. Everybody's got a game plan day one, but by the time you get to Sunday paintball, it's either slowed down and it's just a whole different dynamic. So that's something for myself as a coach with all these, with younger teams, just how can we stay alive and just play team paintball 5 guys alive. So you want to just walk through? Yeah. So we'll walk the Snake side of the field. I mean, stuff like this, most teams would call this like a California bunker, which is first out of the back center. You start looking for, obviously you want to get your way into the Snake, but where can you get to that you have shots also back across the field, right? Because if I'm on the Snake side, guy puts his Dorito in and starts moving and doesn't see me on the inside, same with the Dorito side, you can get guys on that cross shot. So as we continue to work our way down through these bunkers, there's just not a lot of big shots with the big center bunkers, the big bricks. A couple shots, but it's definitely a little tougher. So as we work our way across, I think this is going to be a lot tougher to get across. You've got the mini W Lone Wolf bunker right there that kind of blocks you from some stuff, but you've got multiple bunkers that have a clean shot into this landing pad. I think it's going to be tougher to get through here. So I think for a lot of the younger teams, they're going to have to ask, do we go on the break? Or do we just very slowly work our way in there as the paint starts to slow down, guys get low on pods, maybe we make some moves. Because as you look down the field, there's multiple spots that are going to be able to shoot back through here and just probably eat this guy up. If there's 5 guns alive on each side, it's going to be very tough to get through this. Then once we get into the Snake, we definitely start to pick up shots, but even looking back across this field, you don't have a lot of great shots into the Dorito. There's one Dorito you can see, the rest are pretty blocked. As we work down the corner, you can see on this is inset. A lot of fields, NXL as well. We've kind of gone away from having the corner be dominant on the Snake. Now it's usually inset. That's an inset corner. That guy really can't control this guy crawling down. So as we come through, progress our way through the knuckles, we just keep looking at shots on the inside and what we have. Second knuckle isn't overly beneficial. The 50 here, Once you get into it, you can definitely get some shots into some of the Doritos you couldn't see further back, center can, depending on how this guy wants to wrap around or how he wants to play it. If a guy's in that center brick and doesn't know he's in here, he's going to be in for some trouble. And as you cross onto their side of the field, in theory, working your way down, you're going to have a lot of side shots getting down in here. Another issue you're going to have is you start crawling around some of this stuff, these tall bunkers are going to be able to see packs if you're not super low on the ground. Google Alex Goldman playing the snake, Keith Brown, all the guys that are good at the snake, Billy Bernaccia. You've got to be slammed to that ground coming through, because if they see just a little bit, you're probably going to get picked up. So yeah, I mean, once you get down, if you get all the way down to here, you're definitely going to go to work on some people, I think. You can see there's multiple open shots across field. All the Doritos are pretty much open from here. For myself, like at the academy days that we have, which is where we just bring all the local teams in to practice against each other, when you hear charger, which a lot of teams use that call now, which means no snake, no corner, guys come right down here and they go through the checklist. First guy A, whatever your first threat is on this side of the field, A, B, C, and just work your way through shooting them. You don't want to wrap on B or C when A is still hot, because Murphy's Law, he's going to come out and get you. So I also think if a player gets down to here, to their end of the snake, you got to get the rest of the team up there with you, right? Like get everybody up in a line with you, because if you get...
Don't charge the hill alone.
Yeah, one of my favorite one-liners, or people love to give me a hard time, or my guys love to give me a hard time, is, you know, like in the cartoons, you don't want to get the carrot so close to the donkey's lips that it just bites the carrot, right? Because if you get so far overextended, they're going to get you. So as we continue to work our way around, we'll walk back down through the Dorito side. Again, on the break, if we look down the field, I think a drill a lot of teams can do back home, and I think if you've seen a lot of pro teams, basically any pro team, one, you know, when I was my days in Dynasty and even watching them to this day, a team like Dynasty will have a drill where they do, or even the Aftermath guys or whoever, where they do 2-on-2s, one on each side of the field off the gate, and your first balls are not heads up, they're working back across the field. So you want to work a slight cross back through. Because you can see on this field, this can or this Dorito, especially this can, a lot of teams will come wide to get out to a spot like this and then start coming up at it because they're blocked out from their mirror. If the guy on the snake side can step out and shoot back through here, you're going to catch the guy, we call that the L, right? You basically come out and then up. If you can get your balls to land right here, coming off the snake side back across, and same from the Dorito side going back on the snake side, you just find you pick up a lot more kills, because a lot of guys are trying to go heads up in those bunkers, as opposed to when you do this, if the ball's on target, it does its job. You're going to hit the guy. So as we look down this side of the field, this first big can and those middle big Mayan temples kind of block a lot of stuff out. You've got the big brick in the center and a wing over here. I think once you get wide here, it's going to be easy to survive this side on the break. You know, off the break, it's going to be hard. While this corner feels pretty wide open, if there's not a cross shot back through hitting you, I just think if guys slide and just dig in out here, this is going to be pretty safe side of the field to get out to. And then as we look down it, you know, again, we said early on is two-man operations. You're going to have a guy here or a guy in that big Dorito as your back guy. So you know when your head's up, first guy is your A that you got to check off your checklist. But when you take that wrap, where's B? And there might be a guy in the C spot. And what I mean by that is, even if you put two guys in, you think their heads are both down and you go up, and there's somebody cross field working back through on you, you got to make sure you know where the guns are. And I especially think for younger teams, just don't be in a rush to die, you know? Like, just value your body. There's going to be a time you got to be in first gear, which is real slow, and there's going to be a time you got to put it in fifth gear and go. And you got to kind of know, and I guess that's with Division 5 all the way up to pro, what makes it pro is kind of know when to go and when not to go. I think teams, especially the younger teams out there, can look at who you play. I play Mike, Ryan, these four guys. If you have an ability to scout the teams that you're going to play later in the tournament, you should always scout them. Because you might notice something that they do. They may love to go out to the snake side and shoot back across, and go to the Dorito side and shoot the snake side and basically cross up on the field. Nothing wrong with that, but you know just not to run into that gun, if that makes sense. So as we work our way through here, you know, for me, obviously we're worried about heads up, but if you look down these Doritos, unless there's a guy up in the 50, there's really, you can block these guys out. Again, Ryan Greenspan, guys like that. You see Ryan, all the great players, Rainey. I mean, I'm not trying to leave anybody out. Russian guys, all the X Factor, all the great paintball teams. You see them. This is easy for them. They can block the first guy out. But what they're doing is coming up here looking for that second guy, the second over the top. Because in paintball, for you younger guys, you hear the 1s and 2s and 3s. What that means is the 1 is the first guy out, the attack guy. The 2 is his backup guy. And the 3 is usually your back center guy, your home guy. And where you get a little tough with that is you got guys like Rainey. He's out here this weekend coaching. And he comes from this area. He starts as a 3, and all of a sudden he's up in the front in the blink of an eye in the 50 doing work. So you've got to think to yourself, if that back center guy is quick and mobile, he can get up into these center bricks, and all of a sudden now you have 3 guys up, 2 guys back, and it gives you a lot better balanced attack, right? So if I'm walking this for the first time and I'm trying to figure out, again, I'm thinking who's going to be the guy that catches me slipping, right? Like who's going to be that inside guy that I didn't see, and then you're halfway to your bunker and you look up and there's a hail of paint raining down on you. You got to think where the threats could be. Always being a step ahead on it. I think once you get into here, the only thing that's really going to stop you, because heads up, you can get tight here. As long as that guy's not out on you, it's going to be who's on the inside. And we always call this the tripwire, that 50 brick. As long as you go underneath it, underneath that lay down wing, those stand-ups are the only thing that are going to be able to see you back across the field. If those guys aren't working back across, if everybody's heads up, I think you're going to have a free run to get down in here. This is where guys like Ronnie Dizon put on clinics on people, and you shoot highlight reels of them just making them look like fools, right? Ronnie does.
I mean, I've personally, when I used to play, I've personally drilled against Ronnie one-on-one where he'd put me in a tall tower, and he'd be like, you shoot me, and I can only move between this Dorito and this Dorito. And I'd be like, easy enough. I wouldn't see him move, and I wouldn't take my eye off the lane. I would literally be watching my gun, and he'd pop out from a different Dorito. And it's like,
if you can get something between you and him, get under the tripwire, as I call it.
Yeah, you think you have full vision, but there's an angle you're not seeing. It's worse than pool. The geometry and the angles that are involved.
Because guys like that and the top level pro guys, which is all that separates D5 from the pro mainly, is they've been through it 10,000, 100,000. They've seen these angles so many times, and they know when that gear engages and it's time for them to go forward, there's no hesitation. There's no that hesitation is in the bunker. That's going through their mind. The analytics are going through their heads, I believe. Once they make the decision to go, I mean, it's like a cheetah out there, right? Like when he pins his ears back and it's time to go, it's time to go. So again, we come back to that, what's on my inside, because from here, guys will be, and with the corner on this field, the can is inset, so you have outside leverage as you work down these Doritos. Guys can come out on the wire. I think there's gonna be a lot of pressure constantly on this, that inside Dorito, working back across. But from here, these guys can also kind of, I mean, if you look at it, that center brick's blocked out. Snake doesn't have a lot of great shots. Every Dorito player has to assume if you're in a Dorito, the snake is hot. Everybody that knows me can insert their favorite mic line there. But you have to, if you wake up at 2 in the morning, the snake's still hot. If 2 guys got shot out of the snake is still hot. What I mean by that is, and you know, Ryan, you guys will have a lot of footage of guys this weekend that are in this Dorito playing it 3 feet back like the snake was never hot. And the guy just puts a pink dot on the side of their head, and this guy gives like the what? The Polish salute, as we call it, and they don't know how they got shot because the snake was hot again. Unless you get kill 4 for sure and there's one guy and you see him, the snake is always hot. So I think in this, guys are gonna be able to play this tight and be able to work around into this brick without really being seen. Because again, if you look at the tripwire here, if you stay low and come around here, this 50 is gonna be a realistic option to go to work. So on these Doritos, where we believe, because of how these bunkers are inset from each other, coming out to this outside, guys are gonna be able to slide in here quick. If guys get into these bunkers coming down the field and you feel a lot of outside pressure, you don't wanna keep wrapping, looking into paint. We were talking about is this guy should be able to go inside and get up into here while the guys still think you're in here and shooting on the outside. And from there, I think guys can probably put in some decent work from the 50. So That's a preliminary light walk of it. Another tip I would give to younger teams, especially D4, D5 newer players out there, D6 3-man that we have, is you look at this field just, you know, from a bird's eye view. The outside wire, if you can get 3 to 4 guys to your outside wires, most times you're in a good position. And what I mean by that is we cut a field into 5 gaps. The snake wire is the 1 gap, the outside Dorito is the 5 gap. Inside snake is 2, inside Dorito is 4, and dead center cut of the field, if you just cut it into 5 equal chunks, is your 3 gap. If you always have 3 guys in the 2, 3, and 4 gap, and you only have 1 or 2 guys that ever get wide, it's gonna be a lot tougher to win. Because when they get wide, it doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what team it is, go watch Go Sports, go watch pro teams, watch what happens when they get wide. Because that's when those guys in the middle, you see Ryan Greenspan come up and shoot somebody on the pack, or Tyler Harmon, right? You know, I watched one recently, Wrap and Go, I don't know if it was Go Sports or HK, whoever put it out, but he's in the 1 gap on the snake side, and he's wrapping around, just eating dudes up in the 3, the 4, the 2. It's just easy shots. So I think on fields like this, you got to look, how can we get out of that? And it's safe. The first 5 seconds of the game, it's very safe to be in that center of the field, right? You don't have to take a lot of real estate, high probability of survival. Downside of that is if you don't eliminate somebody and they get wide on you, now you've got to fight your way out to that outside position, and it gets a little bit difficult. So if on fields like this, you can get a guy out to the corner, a guy up in the Dorito, you have a lot better than being back in that Dorito, in that center can. You can't just go to those middle bunkers and sit there. I think a lot of teams do that. They just, and you know, this isn't about any 2 teams. I'm just saying for the young teams, especially the D4 and the D5 out here that don't play until Saturday and Sunday, if you are out here tomorrow, or you play later in the day on Saturday, if I were you, you've already done all this work to be here. I would be here scouting every game you can, and just watch. Watch when teams leave 3 to 4 bodies in the center of the field and only get 1 guy wide. Just in your mind, mark it down. Like, what's the win-loss? What's the analytics on that? As opposed to guys getting wide to the Dorito, getting into the snake, getting a guy behind him, helping over the top. Just see the win percentages. We see it out here at practice all the time. Teams ask, you know, hey, what do you think we're doing wrong? You're not getting wide, you know? So something to think about, just a way to watch, you know? Stealing reps, I believe, is what we call that, right? Even if you're not playing, you're watching somebody else play, and you're thinking, if I was in that position, would I be doing that, or would I not be doing that? And that's a way for younger players to really learn. I think for the younger teams out there, you know, a lot of people, it's kind of it's a social thing to be out here at these tournaments. For me, man, I'm trying to be here from sun up to sundown. You know, you guys do with the media, you see it, Dynasty, Heat, all those guys, they're sun up to sundown digesting, trying to just pick up one extra little angle, because that might be the difference in the tournament. You know, guys like Marcelo's move that he made out there, like, tell me he didn't see that long before that happened, you know. And I mean, watching how that field play, okay, this guy's here, that guy's there. He already had the checkers, the single jump set up all day. How can I get a triple jump out of this? So something to think about.
They're in the VIP or even the open grandstands as a team or individuals watching.
Absorbing.
And you even see them on the comments section on some of the reels where, you know, like Callie Rudolph will comment to Marcelo, be like, that was a lucky bounce. I saw it from a different angle. And, you know, the pros are always watching each other.
Yeah.
Where the divisional guys, they show up and they go home.
Yeah. But that's the difference, right? Many of these divisional guys can climb that ladder a lot quicker by putting in the time, right? Like WC teams out here, we have 4 events a year. Hopefully you guys go to World Cup, you go to a couple other events, but you're talking about 4 events. You can't just be here for your 2-hour time slot or 3-hour time slot and then go home. You need to be here learning. And if your goal is to move to Premier or D3 or your next up division, watch those teams. What's the difference between me and those guys? And how can I become better, you know?
Is there anything you would like to add to the teams? Maybe if you were learning to break out, where would you send your first 5 guys?
I mean, it depends on the weapons every team has, right? Assuming a team's got 5 guys that are all small and fast. I mean, like I said, another thing I would do, good question, is who can we shoot on the break? Is there a lane we feel if we put 1 or 2 guns on, we can get a elimination through there on the break? Because like we all know from practice, nothing better than the 5-on-5 breakout that becomes a 5-on-4 breakout where you shoot a guy. You feel a whole lot better 5-on-4. It's one less bad guy out there with a marker trying to get us. So I think for young teams, as you're walking this today and tomorrow and Saturday, where is the spot that we could possibly flood 2 guns through and get that easy elimination? But for myself, I mean, I think you've got to take some bites on the Dorito side. I think we're going to find out real quickly if guys are able to shoot people on the break. That snake is going to get a little dicey over there. But, you know, to be totally fair, we think that, and we've thought that on NXL layouts and WC layouts, and then guys start running right through it like paint doesn't fly through the air, and they make it all day. So we'll circle back to this tomorrow and see what we're seeing. But I think I try to get two-man ops to both sides of the field, and then the variable is that back center guy. Can you get him up into the center brick? Can you get him up through the center? So instead of having 3 back and 2 up, you've got 3 up and 2 back. So you've got 3 attackers up there working off of each other. That's always a good look, you know? I mean, again, we look at just Heat, Dynasty. I mean, when Blake's up in that center for Dynasty and he's dealing, or Oliver at World Cup or whatever it is, but Blake's been the fullback for a long time that's been up there in that center. When he's up there doing it and you got guys on his side, it's pretty ugly, you know? I know as a guy that has practiced against that team every tournament as Aftermath would get ready, any time Blake or one of those wing guys would go down, you felt a lot better. But when you got 3 across the field, it's a lot to take in, you know, especially when they're up in the 50s. You get 3 guys across that 50 that are working together, crossing up over each other. Now you're just hoping, or not hoping, but you're waiting for that guy to make the first mistake. And as that happens, you know, elimination here, elimination there, you start putting games together and it starts to roll. And great players, you know, the interesting part with paintball is no matter how much you practice or prepare or how great your game plan is, one guy that's got a lot of just grit to go get it done, it's tough to stop one guy. Kind of like Kobe Bryant, right? You'll never stop Kobe or MJ or LeBron or whoever it is. You just try to limit them. So even the best intentions, you're going to lose some points. Just keep steady, stick to the script, and listen to your coaches. Don't cost your team games when you get shot. The extracurricular stuff just kills me. We all sit out here and watch these tournaments, and you watch guys just get dumb penalties, and you're kind of like, was that really needed? You know? So that's another one for the young guys, discipline, right? Like there is definitely victory through discipline and obedience to the game plan and the rules, right? Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
I've always said to win an event, you have to win in 3 phases. You have to win against the team you're playing, you have to win against the refs, and you have to win against yourself.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, any one of those 3 can eliminate you.
Definitely.
But you can mitigate and control the outcome with your attitude, how you act. Like screaming at a ref is never going to get him to get you out of a penalty.
No.
It's the same concept with cops, right? You're never going to talk your way out of handcuffs. Only talk your way into them.
Yeah. And, you know, in our sport of paintball, these referees, there's no other sport where referees stand on their feet as long as they do in paintball. Any league. I mean, it's 10, 12 hours a day, up at 4, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Like they're up early, they're here all day. There's tough calls come down. My league, on top of any, tough calls come down. But like you're saying, being rude to anybody just doesn't seem to win us any friends, you know what I mean? And I do believe, you know, there's guys, I go back to my time in the pro division, there's guys that get away with it. And man, you see some of the penalties they get, and I feel like it's the refs knowing we may not have got you that time, but we're getting you this time, you know? So please and thank you is only a breath away, right?
Yep.
Kill them with kindness.
But it's a little harder with all that adrenaline.
I guess with all that ego, right?
Or that too.
Male ego is something else, man.
It is.
Leave it at the door.
Thank you for the time walking the Lone Wolf Field with us, and
Definitely.
hope we get a great event with some great footage.
Definitely.